Hi and welcome back to Tarot Tats and Tea. I'm here today to talk about books again, and I've added a few to my collection. Well, I say a few, 4 books to my collection since I did my previous look through books, and not all of them are tarot books today, but books that I have found very interesting. One of them takes me back to my childhood, and that is because it's a book that my mum read many years ago, and she had borrowed it from a library and she couldn't find a copy of her own, and like I say, she read this years ago, and I found 2 copies that it's been reprinted, and we've both got a copy. Mum is well halfway through hers. I haven't quite started mine yet, because I've got so many other books on the go at the moment. It's amazing. But this book originally was printed in 1959 by it was by Caldwell Publishers, but it's a book by Taylor Caldwell and probably considered one of her best novels of all time. And I know it took her approximately 46 years to research this book until it was completed in its entirety. This is Dear and Glorious Physician, and it's the story of the life and times of St. Luke, one of the 4 apostles. As we know, the others were Matthew, Mark and John. Now, people might be thinking, Mother of Divine God, what's happened to Elaine? She's going back to her religious days. That's not the case. I don't feel that you have to be particularly religious to enjoy a book like this, particularly when it's written in a sort of historical context. So I'm going to read the blurb to you, and you can see if it's something that you might be interested in. Now, a couple of the reviews are here. One's from the Boston Herald, the next from the New York Times, and this one from the Columbus Citizen. So the Boston Herald state, a portrait so moving and so eloquent, I doubt it is paralleled elsewhere in literature. Here indeed is Taylor Caldwell's major novel. The New York Times state, alive with the bustle of ancient times and places, and illuminated by flashes of genuine lyrical intensity, movingly reconstructs St. Luke's search for God. And then the Columbus Citizen, magnificent. Taylor Caldwell, who has splendid powers of narration, unleashes them all in this, her finest novel. She has made St. Luke a real and believable man, and recreated on a vast canvas the times and people of his day. A glowing and passionate statement of belief, and that is, like I say, by the Columbus Citizen. You see, St. Luke, we have the 4 apostles, but I always thought the apostles lived in and around the times of Jesus. But actually, St. Luke, who was a doctor or a physician, was many years after Jesus, and so this is how he spent his life. And I think because I sort of got from my mum how much she enjoyed it, how passionate she was about this book, and how beautifully written it was, that I chose to get myself a copy and read it too. And I'm actually looking forward to getting stuck into it, to be honest. So the blurb on the back states, today St. Luke is known as the author of the 3rd Gospel of the New Testament, but nearly 2,000 years ago he was Lucanus, a Greek and a man of science. Taylor Caldwell portrays him as a man who knew the emptiness of bereavement, and later travelled through the hills and wastes of Judea, asking, what manner of man was my Lord? It is this Lucanus that Caldwell brings to life in her stirring novel. Lucanus grew up in the household of his stepfather, the Roman governor of Antioch. He studied medicine in Alexandria and became one of the greatest physicians of the ancient world, travelling far and wide through the Mediterranean region, healing the sick. When Lucanus heard of the life and death of Jesus, he saw in him the God he was seeking. To learn all he could about Jesus, whom he had never seen, Lucanus visited all the places where Jesus had been, questioning everyone who had known him or heard him preach, including his own mother Mary. When he had gathered all the information possible, he wrote what we now know as the Gospel according to St. Luke. Caldwell's own travels through the Holy Land and years of meticulous research make Dear and Glorious Physician a fully developed portrait of a complex and brilliant man, and a colourful recreation of ancient Roman life as it contrasted in its decadence with the new world that Christianity was bringing into being. Here is the story to warm, inspire, and to call forth a renewal of faith and love. Well, I think it's definitely maybe a story to inspire, but to renew faith. I have my own beliefs, and it's not necessarily that of the Christian Church. However, or the Catholic faith, I should say, as opposed to the Christian Church, I do believe that this is going to be a beautiful read. And once I have finished it, I will come back and report to you my findings. On a complete contrast to that, here's the next book. And if this one was going to get me into heaven, according to saints and scholars, this one is surely going to get me into the hot seat. Okay, this is Welsh Witchcraft, a guide to the spirits, lore and magic of Wales, and it's written by Mara Starling. The author of From the Cauldron Born, Christopher Hughes, has stated a fresh and authentic voice that expresses the timeless magic of her native Wales. So let's have a look what it says on the back. So Anwyn Avalon, the author of Water Witchcraft, has written the following review. A beautiful authentic guide to Welsh witchcraft. Mara has filled this book with a beautiful array of mythology, folklore, plants, spells and Welsh knowledge. And for the book itself, a new approach to witchcraft based on Welsh traditions. Enter a world of sacred lakes, healing herbs, spectral hounds and the mighty red dragon. Written by a Welsh practitioner, this inspiring book shares the magical traditions of Wales, including fairies, folklore and charms, with dozens of hands-on activities. Mara Starling shows you how you can incorporate Welsh and Celtic folk magic into your modern witchcraft practice with exercises for celebrating those who came before, protecting against adversity, changing the weather and more. You'll also discover methods for honouring the land and ways to connect with Ceridwen, Rhiannon and other deities. Welsh Witchcraft invites you to explore this country's rich heritage and use it to empower your spirituality. Mara Starling was born in North Wales, raised on the Isle of Anglesey, and is a native Welsh speaker. She has been practicing witchcraft from a very young age, and her witchcraft videos on TikTok have more than 1 million viewers. Mara is a celebrant and a tarot reader, and she runs moots, gatherings and open rituals. She was featured on the BBC Wales documentary series Young Welsh and Pretty Religious. So that's the book by Mara Starling. Now I have dipped in and out of this now, just going through, and what I like about it, there's a lot of sort of charms and spells, so to speak, written in Welsh, which makes it even more special. It seems to add an earthy power to the words. There's the English translation underneath. So if you are interested in this sort of thing, whether you can or cannot speak Welsh, that doesn't matter. This is a book that can bring sort of a new slant to your modern day witchcraft practices, and I think that many people will enjoy this. Now, another 2 books here. Now, this book I saw that Simon Harrison on Hermit's Cave also has a copy of this book, and he had put a photograph up of it and asked what, did people have it. I have this book. Yep, I do. And it is a tarot and divination cards, a visual archive. And that's exactly what it is. It's an archive of a variety of tarot decks, of a variety of cards, of Lenormand decks, and it goes into various practices of divination. It's a dip-in sort of info book, collection of all sorts of information about tarot. For centuries, game cards have served as fortune-telling tools and introspective mirrors through which we can engage with our path, our drive and our desires. Acting as a visual oracle, the cards have become an iconic and adaptable muse for seekers in all walks of life, and also an inspiration for mainstream culture from high fashion to pop. In this book, Letitia Barbier invites readers to contemplate hundreds of tarot decks and divination cards, to bask in their visual beauty and understand how these images and their ineffable storytelling powers came to be. What did they mean at the time of their creation, and what do we see in them today? From Rihanna to Vasquez Pope, obscure Renaissance decks to contemporary masterpieces, tarot and divination cards, a visual archive, passes the incredibly rich history and the glorious tales these cards depict, proving that cartomancy is alive and well and always in motion. The foreword in this is written by Rachel Pollock. So this is a book that is going to be great, sort of like a coffee table book as well. You know that you would, it's the images in it are full of colour and beautiful, and it's just absolutely glorious. It's very heavy to hold, but it is lovely. Okay, so that's one that will be like pretty much like my Taschen books, will be part of my tarot library. Now today I got up this morning and started my day with a bicycle ride, and I cycled about nearly 13 kilometres, came home, then went off to meet some friends, and we went to a lovely little market in the village of Kilmuckridge. It was the Kilmuckridge Castle Market, where I purchased 2 candles from the Irish Artisan Candles, sweet lime and coconut and lemongrass and ginger. So I'm looking forward to burning these. They smell absolutely divine. From there we went to a Springmount garden centre, where I bought 4 African daisies, different varieties, and my son helped me plant them in the garden. And from there we went for a coffee and then a walk around the works. So people here in Ireland and people in the UK will know of the works. The works have a great book available at the moment, and it's on, their centre displays, and the history of magic, witchcraft and the occult. Okay, this is the book. Now, magic has intrigued us for thousands of years. Since prehistoric times, people have looked into other realms to explain the wonders of the universe and believed that they could manipulate spiritual forces to influence the physical world. This enchanting book takes a mystical tour through history, stopping at alchemy, divination, paganism, shamanism, witchcraft and more, on its way to modern-day Wicca, tarot and spells for the 21st century. Expect the unexpected as this beautiful and intelligent account opens your eyes to other worlds. Whether you are a believer or a skeptic, this history of magic will leave you spellbound. And it's written, it's a Dorling Kinsley, what is it? Dorling Kinsley, I think it's called, DK. The foreword is by Susanna Lipscomb. So it's like the previous book that I've shown you. It's sort of historical, but this is looking at more than just tarot. So you've got the ancient roots, the birth of rituals. So that's sort of prehistory to 400 CE. And then we've got the years 400 to 1500, curse or cure, where you're looking at wand carries, the runes, drumming and trance, tales of the druids, etc., Christianity and the occult. We then move on to 1500 to 1700, scholars and sabbats. Then 1700 to 1900, secrecy and ceremony. And then 1900 onwards, modern magic. And here we see images of the druids as well. So this is the contents page. The contents page covers a lot. There are over 300 pages in this book. And we've got contributors to this. Professor Susanna Lipscomb is an author, broadcaster and award-winning professor of history at the University of Roehampton. And it goes on to tell us, a fellow of the Royal Historical Society and a fellow of the Higher Education Academy, her research focuses on the 16th century, both on English and French history, and she is especially interested in the intersection of religious, gender, political, social and psychological history in ordinary women's lives, faith, marriage, sexuality, and in witchcraft and witch trials. To date, she has written 5 books of history, co-edited another, written articles for a variety of British newspapers, and writes a regular column for History Today. An award-winning presenter, she has written and presented 18 television history documentary series for the BBC, ITV and National Geographic, among others, and was the presenter of Historic England, England's podcast Irreplaceable, The History of England in 100 Places. Consultants, she's consulted Dr. Sophie Page, and contributors have been Thomas Cousins, John Fondon, Anne Kay and Philip Parker. Then we have the foreword by Susanna Lipscomb herself. So in this, there's a huge amount. The Fall of the Templars, A Pact with the Devil, Witchcraft Under Scrutiny. Then you've got Wizards, Kings and Dragons. It is just full of everything. Neither the first day of May nor the last day of September or April should blood be drawn or goose be eaten. So it's going back to old wives' tales, etc., etc. So this is going to be one that I'm going to really enjoy going through. My friend Tamara, who was with me today, said, as soon as you finished reading that, can I read it too? And I thought, this is going to take me quite a while, but it's going to be so interesting. And it's also got a section of it on plants, you know, how they were used as herbs and medicines many years ago. So those are my pieces of literature that I have to share with you today. And I'm also, maybe tomorrow sometime, going to be popping up a video on this past week's foraging experiences, where my husband and I went foraging for wild garlic and where I made pestos. So look out for that one too. In the meantime, I'm going to say good night. I'm going to get my tea. I'm going to settle down for the evening, and I wish you a relaxing, peaceful evening and a good week next week. Bye all.